For enterprise organizations, managing all your food needs is a tall order. But with EasyCater, you get a single workplace food vendor with the tools and resources to make it easy, giving teams across your organization an easy way to order from a huge variety of restaurants, all on one platform. All while consolidating your corporate food spend so you can control costs, streamline billing and payment, and simplify reporting. EasyCater, your business tool for food. To learn more, visit easycater.com/podcast.
Come on. Why is this taking so long? This thing is ancient.
Still using yesterday's tech? Upgrade to the ThinkPad X1 Carbon. Ultra-light, ultra-powerful, and built for serious productivity. With Intel Core Ultra processors, blazing speed, and AI-powered performance, it keeps up with your business, not the other way around.
Whoa, this thing moves.
Stop hitting snooze on new tech. Win the tech search at Lenovo.com. Lenovo. Unlock AI experiences with the ThinkPad X1 Carbon, powered by Intel Core Ultra processors, so you can work, create, and boost productivity all on one device.
Hey guys, it's Erin Andrews from Calm Down with Erin and Carissa. So when the pressure's on, you remember the people who helped you get this far, whose knowledge guided you and whose care kept you grounded. For me, it was my dad, my mentor, who believed in me when I was just getting started in journalism. A real-life example that showed me when you work with someone who knows a lot and cares even more, you're unstoppable. At Truist, that's exactly how they approach banking. Truist, leaders in banking, unwavering in care. See what knowledge and care can do for you at truist.com/unstoppable. Truist, member FDIC, leading based on top 10 commercial bank.
Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
This is a breaking news update from Bloomberg. Instant reaction and analysis from our 3,000 journalists and analysts around the world.
I'm Joe Mathieu, alongside Kriti Gupta in Washington, where we come to you with breaking news this evening. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk has been confirmed dead by the President of the United States. President Trump's posting, quote, "The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead," unquote.
Kirk was speaking at Utah Valley University when he was shot on stage. Prominent Republican Jason Chaffetz saying he only heard a single shot ring out, the shot that presumably struck and, according to the president, killed Kirk. Moments before the president confirmed his death, House Speaker Mike Johnson said this from Capitol Hill.
This is detestable, what's happened. Political violence has become all too common in American society, and this is not who we are. It violates the core principles of our country, our Judeo-Christian heritage, our civil society, our American way of life, and it must stop. We need every political figure, we need everyone who has a platform to say this loudly and clearly. We can settle disagreements and disputes in a civil manner, and political violence must be called out, and it has to stop.
This is a fast-moving story, and we have our reporters covering it with much more tonight. Bloomberg's Kate Sullivan joins us from the White House, and Bloomberg's Mike Shepard is with us here in our Washington bureau. Shep, let's start with you right now as someone who's covered politics for a long time around here, and the element of political violence that has crept back into our culture over the past couple of years, something hard to ignore. With regard to this young man, someone who started a movement as a teenager and helped to lift Donald Trump into the White House, what do we make of this latest turn?
Well, this, as Joe, as you pointed out, really does point to this fear many have had about an increase in political violence. We've seen the rhetoric over the past decade or so really intensify and an edge creep into the conversation when it comes to, the core cultural and political and social and policy issues that surround daily life in the U.S. And we've seen flashes of this violence actually manifest itself. Of course, more than a year ago, then candidate Donald Trump himself was the target of 2 assassination attempts. The one, of course, in Butler, Pennsylvania, that was so high profile when he emerged to say, fight, fight, fight. But then more recently, in June of this year, we saw 2 Democratic lawmakers in Minnesota who were targeted in their homes at night by a gunman who was politically motivated, according to authorities there. So this is the kind of incident that stokes the concern that the rhetoric and the intensified back and forth between the various and quite divided sides here in this country can spill over into violence. And that's something that we just heard the House Speaker address moments ago.
Mike, I think I'm going to ask you the question that a lot of people around the country are asking, which is there a policy response and policy fallout that we can expect off the back of this?
Well, for the immediate moment, there will be calls for prayer for Charlie Kirk and for his family in the wake of this terrible incident, and calls from both sides really to step back from the brink of violence. But then the actual policy steps, that always gets more tricky. And sad to say, in many respects, it is to be expected that each side will fall back on the norm, with Democrats perhaps urging more control of firearms and access to firearms, and Republicans, pointing to questions about extremism on the left. And so when it comes to a policy prescription emerging from this, or from, for example, the incident in Minnesota just weeks ago, the school shooting at a Catholic school in Minnesota, it is more of the same that we're likely to hear on this. And really the whole issue, Kriti, is the question of political rhetoric and people now willing to take that next step and follow on their worst instincts and urges, as we've seen fomented and promoted on social media for several years now.
Bloomberg's Mike Shepard, we thank you so much for bringing us up to speed. I want to go to Kate Sullivan, who's at the White House for us. Kate, just bring us up to speed on the reaction where you are.
So we're seeing an outpouring of messages of prayer and condolences from across the White House and the broader Trump administration. The president called Charlie Kirk legendary. He said nobody understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. Charlie Kirk was a fixture on the campaign trail. I saw him at countless events across many different battleground states when I was covering the Trump campaign last year. The president has credited him with really boosting his his turnout among young people and getting young people excited about his campaign. Charlie Kirk founded Turning Point USA, which specifically advocates for conservative politics on high school and college campuses. So we saw Charlie Kirk host many, many events across college campuses, particularly during the campaign season. Before news came out that he had actually died, J.D. Vance posted 3 different times on social media, posting a photo of himself and Kirk, saying Kirk would answer any question and talk to everyone. So you're seeing, the close ties that Kirk has with many people in the White House, many different Republican officials. We're all just reacting to this horrific news right now.
Somewhat unusual to have this announcement come from the President of the United States himself. Kate, is the press office or communications office saying anything about the fact that the commander-in-chief told us this, as opposed to Kirk's family?
No, and that's a great point and question. All we know is what Trump has posted, and we're seeing, after he posted, then J.D. Vance posted, and so a lot of people are, of course, taking cues from the president and reacting to this news that, as you're completely correct, that Trump broke on Truth Social himself.
Bloomberg's Kate Sullivan at the White House. Kate, thank you as always. We just heard from the president again on social media. He was typing while we were talking. In honor of Charlie Kirk, he writes, a truly great American patriot. I am ordering all American flags throughout the United States lowered to half-mast until Sunday evening at 6 p.m. Our political panel is with us here in studio. Kristen, Hawn, our Democratic strategist partner at ROKK Solutions, joins us alongside Marua, Gillespie, Bluestack Strategies. It's great to see both of you. A Republican strategist. I'll start with you in this case, Marua. Talk to us about the significance of what this means for the Republican movement, if not the MAGA movement, and why the White House is so deeply involved. Why did we learn this from the president?
Well, I think it's no surprise the president feels pretty strongly about his loyalists, those who have been his champions. And I think that the biggest takeaway for me is to say that this isn't about being Republican. This isn't about being Democrat. This is about political violence in this country and why it's so prevalent here. That's a problem. And I don't know how we screen for it. I don't know how you can't really necessarily see hate in someone's heart. And so we have a bigger conversation to have here, because this is a man, whether you agreed with him or not, or vehemently disagreed with him, this is a husband, a father, someone's son. And I just think that we have lost sight of really our humanity when it comes to our political discourse in this country, whether it was from Gabby Giffords to Steve Scalise to what happened in Minnesota, to the president himself, and to watch this now. And for anyone who's been on social media and those videos are playing, whether you wanted to see it or not, it is truly, I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm sure you're all feeling the same, but sick to my stomach about what this means, but also just seeing it. But we have to get a handle on it, and I don't know what that answer is, but it's not Republican or Democrat. It is us as Americans, and we have a problem here.
Kristen, just weigh in, your immediate reaction.
I mean, this, obviously, I totally agree. This is not a one-party problem or the other, as we've clearly seen throughout the years. And, you know, I was on Capitol Hill working for the Blue Dog Coalition, of which Congresswoman Giffords was a member. And, you know, you're a communications person trying to write statements. I remember just breaking down crying and then trying to gather myself and pull myself together. I think an element, you know, it's hard to figure out exactly how to get at this, but an element is the rhetoric that's coming out of, you know, both sides of the aisle sometimes, and toning that down, treating people like humans, and your leaders. And the president starts with the president of the United States. People listen to what he's saying, and, you know, I mean, and members of Congress and members of the Senate, and having an honest dialogue that's civil with, you know, your next door neighbor, I think, you know, is really important. I don't think that maybe fixes everything, because like you said, you can't see hate in somebody's heart. You can't necessarily tell what they're going to do. But, you know, it can definitely start there. You know, Maura reminds us of the Steve Scalise shooting that was years ago. The Capitol Police shooting was, what, 1999? This has been a conversation in Washington for years, and whether we should provide more security for lawmakers who in many cases are dipping into allowances to find private security and protection for themselves. You worked for a former speaker in John Boehner. Maura, does that need to happen?
You know, I think it's a conversation to be had about how much members make currently. You know, I know that that's not necessarily a popular conversation, but when you look at their salary, if they are, you know, in a situation where they need to get security, their salary is not really going to cover that, plus their housing here in D.C. So you think about that, that may be a conversation to have, some built-in funding for security needs. But I think with Kristen's point there about talking and how we use our words, referring to our political opponents as enemies, that's a problem, right? We can do better. And I think that for every member of Congress, anyone who's running for office, and anyone who sits, you know, talking on politics on TV should try and do better and make a promise to try and do that, because I think that our words have impact, and how we talk to one another as a Republican talking to a Democrat and be on a panel together. That makes I do think that people at home watch that, and how we handle our discourse here really could make an impact at home. Well, and as far as the security needs go, I mean, just look at the members of the January 6th committee. They started getting, they didn't have Secret Service or Capitol Police security 24/7 until they all started getting death threats, a lot of them on both sides of the aisle, and people were going to their houses at home when they were here in Washington, D.C., and going to their kids' schools. And so, you know, we afforded them the protection of the Capitol Police, who do such a wonderful job at protecting our officials. But, you know, this is all members of Congress. I think, you know, the move to give them a little bit of money to, you know, out of their current allotment to provide some of that security for themselves and their family was probably a good thing. The result is, unfortunately, fewer people wanting to run for elected office when we're having conversations like these. Kristen, Hawn, and Maura Gillespie, I thank you so much for the immediate response now as we turn to Capitol Hill. Joining us now live from the Capitol, Republican Senator Mike Rounds of South Dakota, member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Senator, it's good to have you here. It's not what we expected that we would be talking about this evening, but can you weigh in on this, your reaction to what took place, how we got here, and whether we need to have a serious conversation about Capitol Police security for lawmakers like yourself?
Well, let me begin just by offering my condolences, my thoughts, my prayers to Charlie's family, to his spouse, and to their children. This is not something that any of us on either side of any political aisle want to see happen ever. And so this is simply very, very unfortunate, and we offer our thoughts and our prayers. And, you know, look, this is just a bad message from what we would hope otherwise would have been an opportunity for peaceful discussion on specific issues, talking about, you know, our differences in a very, very normal way, a way in which people can have a discussion, having differences, having differing points of view and still remaining as friends and as colleagues. And so to see Charlie Kirk in this particular method, this is just a terrible, terrible day for America. And once again, it is something that I think, with regard to what we do here in the capital of the United States and the way that we treat one another, is something that should be an example that you don't have to have violence in the middle of political discussions.
Senator Rounds, do we need to hear from the president in a call for unity to end some of this political violence? Is that what we're waiting for?
I think the first thing that the president did was to offer his thoughts, his prayers, his condolences to Charlie's family. I think that's, the first thing that we all want to do. And then along with that, it is an opportunity for us to once again tell the rest of America and the rest of the world that we can have differing points of view and not be violent about it. And so anything that any of us can do to offer as an example the way that we should treat one another with respect, that's a positive thing. I think that's what Charlie Kirk would have wanted to have had happen. And most certainly that's something that I think we should continue to carry on, which is peacefully discuss, have your differing points of view, argue it, debate it. It's healthy for America, but our founding fathers wanted that to be done in such a fashion that we could still be one strong, unified nation, even if we have differing points of view. And there's nothing wrong with having differing points of view.
Well, I appreciate your point of view on that, Senator. We were looking at some polling from Ipsos from back in July that asked voters about political extremism and threats to our democracy. This poll with Reuters showed 27% of Americans ranked political extremism as the most important problem facing the U.S. How about you?
I can just tell you from personal experience here in Washington, we work across some of the most polarized areas in terms of ideas and ideologies. But if you talk to members of the Senate, Republican and Democrat alike, we get along with one another. We have visits with one another. We go to lunch together. We have a prayer breakfast together. We have Bible studies together. We are not enemies. We may have different points of view, but that doesn't get across very often. And so the example that we should be able to offer is one of unity in terms of making America better than what it is today. Our founding fathers said that they wanted to create a more perfect union. They didn't say our union was perfect to begin with. They wanted it more perfect. Well, that's what we should be focused on here. And sometimes in the middle of our strong emotions here, we forget to finish with that particular part of the message, which is regardless of our points of view, we're Americans first. And we treat each other with respect and with dignity. And here in the Capitol, in the offices that we have, I can tell you personally and that behind closed doors, Republicans and Democrats alike get along. We respect one another. We consider each other as colleagues and friends. And we would hope that across America, whether it's a coffee clutch or whether it's a political meeting, a city council meeting, or a state legislative body, that we remember that we are all Americans and that we have a whole lot more in common than we'll ever disagree on.
Senator, it's great to have you, and I appreciate your candor in talking about this very sensitive issue, because I've been in that rotunda and I have seen Republican members like yourself get along quite well with Democrats, and I wish more people saw that side of the Capitol. Mike Rounds of South Dakota, thank you for being with us.
For enterprise organizations, managing all your food needs is a tall order. But with EasyCater, you get a single workplace food vendor with the tools and resources to make it easy, giving teams across your organization an easy way to order from a huge variety of restaurants, all on one platform. All while consolidating your corporate food spend so you can control costs, streamline billing and payment, and simplify reporting. EasyCater, your business tool for food. To learn more, visit easycater.com/podcast.
Hey guys, it's Erin Andrews from Calm Down with Erin and Carissa. So when the pressure's on, you remember the people who helped you get this far, whose knowledge guided you and whose care kept you grounded. For me, it was my dad, my mentor, who believed in me when I was just getting started in journalism. A real-life example that showed me when you work with someone who knows a lot and cares even more, you're unstoppable. At Truist, that's exactly how they approach banking. Truist, leaders in banking, unwavering in care. See what knowledge and care can do for you at truist.com/unstoppable. Truist, member FDIC, leading based on top 10 commercial bank.
In the heat of battle, your squad relies on you. Don't let them down. Unlock elite gaming tech at Lenovo.com. Dominate every match with next-level speed, seamless streaming, and performance that won't quit. And push your gameplay beyond limits with Intel Core Ultra processors. That's the power of Lenovo with Intel Inside. Maximize your edge by shopping at Lenovo.com during their back-to-school sale. That's Lenovo.com.
Lenovo.